housing and working with our unsheltered population. There's been conversations around, of course, lowering taxes, and so anything that I do must lower taxes. Conversations around infrastructure and making sure that we're attracting more businesses in the area. The mall is a big one that comes up often. Kmart is another one that comes up often. So, yeah. Every issue that you can think of, whether it is city related, state related, or federally related, the mayor is supposed to do something about it. So,
What is it they want you to do with the mall?
so I think people are just kind of seeing that the mall is not what it used to be. And so folks are like, what can we do? How do we make it more vibrant? How do we attract more businesses to the mall? And that's a good question, right? When you think of like how vibrant the mall used to be, people would go around, walk around, you would do a lot of shopping at the mall. In fact, youth would go hang out at the mall during the weekends, and none of that is happening now. So I think some folks are kind of like, well, what can you do as mayor to build that back up?
And what can you do? What has anything been proposed, or is that still?
There's nothing that's been proposed. For me, it's a matter of reaching out to the owners of the mall and figure out what their plan is and see how it can go alongside what the city plan is to ensure that we're getting more businesses in the area and retaining the businesses that we have. So.
I want to touch on homelessness because we've once again seen the city council allocate contingency fund money for security on weekends for city parks and parking ramps. Do you foresee the overnight camping ban to remain in effect long term, through the course of your first term as mayor here, or is Common Council thinking about ways to adjust how to address the homelessness crisis?
So I am fully advocating for the Pathways Home program. That is where we are dumping our eggs in that basket for our long-term plan and our long-term solution. We are on track with some of the numbers in terms of making sure that we're ending homelessness in this area by December of 2025, if not 2025 and 2026. The reality is that we need to make sure that we have a long-term foolproof plan and evidence-based, and that's what Pathways Home is. In the immediate, there's also some solutions that we're working towards across the county, like working with the county, working with city department heads as well as city staff to ensure that we're making sure we're doing what's best for our unhoused populations and working with them to make sure that we get them connected to resources. So I'm all in on Pathways Home, and that is essentially what we'll be doing in my tenure as mayor, and hopefully continue to do to ensure that we're making sure we're doing what's best for our unhoused populations.
With the Pathways Held lease program that saw momentum through Common Council most recently, one of the big hangups is getting landlords on board with that program and being a part of that process. As someone who's very forward facing with the public, how are those conversations going with landlords in the community to try and get them to see the potential value in that program?
The good thing about it is Crosse has some really amazing people, and there are landlords and property managers that are already on board and already, working with our unhoused population. So to add to that, with this Pathway Home lease program, I think is going to be extremely important.
Yeah. Kind of sticking onto an earlier part of your question, do you see the city's policies with camping and such as working, or would you like to see changes to where folks can set up tents and where they can relocate to?
I wish I could change the past. At the end of the day, we're kind of moving forward and recognizing that we know that we have an unsheltered situation happening in this community, and we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for our unsheltered populations as much as possible. And so as issues arise, we make sure we come together as a team to say, hey, this is happening, how can we address this? And again, still holding on to Pathways Home as that long-term solution, because we can't just continue to put Band-Aids on something. We have to really make sure that we're solving the actual issue at the root. And that's getting people housed and getting them connected to resources.
When we see graphics posted about numbers going in a positive direction for Pathways Home, I don't know about my colleagues here for other media outlets, but we sometimes see a lot of skeptical comments from members of the public that maybe don't believe the numbers are very accurate or are just less trusting of government when they say numbers are headed in a different direction. Is there some kind of more visual or some kind of approach that the program can take to maybe help prove to city residents that the program is getting meaningful results?
So to answer that, what I'll say is my focus areas, I've kind of divided them into three, right? One is community engagement, local economy, and housing, which is also a part of my campaign that I ran on. And so when it comes to that community engagement piece, one of the most integral parts is education. And I think we have to do a better job of educating our public and our community about various things around city government. So that also includes what's working, right? So when you talk about Pathways Home, there are some great things and great resources that are coming out of that. And we have to do a better job of making sure that we're communicating that to the community. And there's gonna be folks that don't trust it. I can't do anything about that, but what I can do is at least provide the resources and the information and say, and the stories, right, of folks who have been successful through the program, and say this is what we're gonna allow to speak for itself. And people just have to trust that we're doing what we can and the best that we can to ensure we're doing what's good for this community.
What do you have planned for the next 100 days?
Great question. More learning. No, the next 100 days is going to be me, again, staying out in the public, connecting with the community, but then also moving to a place of strategy. I won't give those details because I won't give those details without talking to my department heads first. And so recognizing that we're now going to be moving into that kind of place of talking about policy and talking about changes and things that we want to see happen in the community.
I think a common string of this is relations with the Common Council, you know, with past decisions and even more recent decisions. What have you learned in your relationship with the Common Council so far?
I've been meeting with the Common Council. I've set up meetings monthly with all of them. Some of them are in person, some of them are just quick phone calls just to touch base and check in. The goal is to build that relationship, right? Some of them I know from past work experiences and just being in the community, and others I would like to get to know more of and figure out, you know, what their vision is and make sure that our vision for the community aligns.
Yeah, it was kind of one of the testier Common Council meetings last time. Do you see decorum on the council becoming an issue, or do you have a plan to kind of cool the jets around that, I guess?
You know, you can't predict what people are gonna do. And so I'll just stay firm and try to make sure that I'm controlling the meeting and making sure that we are being respectful to each other. And that's in the council chambers and outside of the council chambers.
Yeah, absolutely.
From all the meetings that you've had, just to go back to, we talked about this during the debate, the city administrator position still kind of hanging up in the air for a while as people learn more about what that might entail, what the job description might be. As someone who's kind of learning all at once what your job entails and what running a city actually entails, any thoughts on how that's evolved in your head or Common Council's head on whether a city administrator is in fact a good and viable position to have long term?
So at this time, I think we're all just kind of learning and trying to navigate and understand what does it mean for the city of La Crosse to have a city administrator. Not so much as if it's needed, but what would it look like? And so I think that's kind of where we're at now with like the city administrator working group, is them kind of diving and understanding a little bit more about how does that fit into the city of La Crosse and what does that look like. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're just at this, let's discuss, let's talk. As a new mayor coming in, what am I seeing and how would this particular role benefit the city or not, right? And so I think that's kind of where we're just at right now, just in this, still the conversation phase, and then the educating the public is coming next, so.
I don't want to hog this. I have more, but operating budget, it's coming up soon. We've got kind of final hearings starting in August and September. Are there any major concerns at this point as we near final proposals for the budget?
I would say it's too early to tell.
Right.
I mean, I still have to meet with department heads, our finance director, and like really kind of comb through what this next year's budget is gonna look like, and so it's a little too early.
Too early.
Too
Yeah.
early.
Yeah. I know it's been a thing with other municipalities in the area, you know, trying to come up with these creative solutions as there's like problems with the state system of like allowing cities to do levies and such. what do you see as the best solution to increase funding for the city without like impacting the tax base? What is like the main strategy above all 4 years, not just for this budget?
I mean, the main strategy would be making sure that we're advocating to the state to give municipalities more money. And if we do that, and if they listen, then we wouldn't be in some of the situations that we're in. When I look at this year's budget that was just recently approved, it would have been nice to have more money coming to the municipalities. It also would have been nice to have more money going to the K-12 system. And I guess that's what I would encourage folks to advocate for. Like when you're talking to your state reps, like, hey, you should be advocating for them to give more money to municipalities so that we are not in this kind of influx of, are we gonna raise the tax levy, et cetera. So.
When you're asking the state for more money, what do they tell you? We don't have it, or be patient, or we'll get it to you, or?
Well, I don't know that they can ever tell us that they don't have it, because they $111 billion. To be honest with you, I haven't really gotten a response from that. It's just a matter of like, well, we're trying to negotiate, right? When we look at the budget, there's no secret that partisan politics play a huge role in that. And so one party wants one thing, one party wants another, and then there's the infight. And the reality is that they should be looking at what our municipalities need in order to be able to thrive and survive and build community where everyone can live and feel valued and not have to be in the influx of, will my taxes increase this year, right? So.
Thinking about tax increases, the stormwater utility rate kind of hit in your first 100 days, and I think that was one of the more impactful things on like folks' bottom dollar around here. Was that just the timing of things like over the past couple of years getting that going, or was that something that you were kind of pushing for as a solution to some of these budget issues?
I will tell you that there was a study done. That study happened before I was elected mayor, and so it was just time for that to happen. It happened in my first 100 days. It's fine. Like, I mean, I understood the rationale behind it happening. I know folks were not necessarily happy about that, but the reality is there was a study done that utility increase had not happened over a long period of time, and it just so happens to happen right once I was elected. So.
Yeah, and how did you feel about the timing on it? Did you feel like folks were gonna like pin it on you? Or?
I knew what was gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Like I've entered this role as mayor, and I recognize more so now in this 100 days than ever that anything that happens in the city is the mayor's fault. So whether I had anything to do with it, if it was before my time or whatever, it's my fault. And so I'll take ownership and recognizing that the storm utility bill increasing was something that needed to happen because it had not happened over a period of time, and it is what it is.
Yeah. How are you working through that with that kind of citywide responsibility? How does that impact, I guess, you as a person?
Yeah. I mean, overall it's fine. I mean, I think the reality is I'd rather people call and have a conversation with myself or with any of the staff to understand how we got to where we're at. And recognize, like, I understand, even if you understand how we got to where we are, you might not be happy, but at least you've done your due diligence to be educated on the rationale behind it and not just making assumptions, right? Mm-hmm. So for folks to be like, this man in his first 100 days came and hiked up the storm utility bill, like, is that realistic?
No.
When it comes to funding, we're seeing that minimum revenue guarantee project for the La Crosse Airport. Any progressive discussions on how the funding is coming along, or if another airline is interested in servicing this area?
So we're constantly looking at that. We recognize that there is extremely important, like to me, priority one for the airport is to get a second airline here in this city. And so I know that they're working on that diligently. I'll be expecting updates fairly shortly on that too.
Okay. And one other funding related question, funds for the lawyers to go through that process as the town of Campbell tries to incorporate. We've talked about property tax base already a little bit. I know all those discussions happen in closed session. Anything you want to share to the public about the town of Campbell going through that incorporation process?
At this time, no. I have no comment on that. Yeah.
How has work with public safety been going in your eyes? How's that relationship been?
It's been great.
Yeah.
I think, recognizing the importance of public safety, understanding that our police department has been doing a great job of putting forth the initiative of understanding mental health and working with individuals that have mental health needs, making sure that they're getting out in the community and connecting in a variety of ways to ensure people recognize that they're a resource to this community. I think it's important. Then we have our public safety with the fire department who, is going out and communicating and making sure that we're being transparent about what's going on in this community and how to address public safety needs.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a rowdier summer, especially at Pettibone Park. Just seems like things keep happening there. But in a wider scope, is there a broad solution to that? Is there something that you see as could change to help the? Because it's been a lot of more public and leaning towards violent crime. Do you see a solution to that? Is there something you would propose to help?
So for me, it all goes back to there's an education piece, but then there's also the community, right? This community is here. We're trying to make sure everybody feels safe, welcome, and have the resources they need to thrive. And what that looks like, it varies from community to community, right? And when I think about the violence that is happening in this community, it's something that we don't want to tolerate, we don't want to hear. And so we just got to figure out solutions of for our young folks, do we have more for them to do, right? That teen population, that young adult population, what do they need from us? Not just the city, but from this community to ensure that they are making better decisions.
And just more specifically with the most recent Pettibone Park incident with firearms found hidden in the park, is the community safe? Is Pettibone Park safe for the public? When we hear about stuff like this.
When I talk to the chief police, he says this is a safe community. And I don't think he has a reason to lie. So I believe this community is a safe community. Do we have things that happen? Yes, and we address them as they come up. And we try to be as proactive as possible to ensure that they do not happen. And that's kind of just where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Covered a lot.
I think that's
Anything else you want to let the public know that we haven't asked?
I'll just go back to, again, as we were talking about what's the mayor's priorities and what's the vision, my goal is to develop a strategic plan for the next 4 years so that I can stay focused and the community can stay focused and moving ahead. I have decided, again, to kind of group my priorities in these 3 sections of community engagement, local economy, and housing, so that we can ensure that we're addressing those needs and then working with the department heads and also other city entities, both nonprofit and private, to ensure that I put forth the best priorities that's going to really move this city forward and be forward thinking about what is our future and what do we want La Crosse to be. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.